Well, we all know OpenClaw supports web search out of the box, but it requires a paid Brave API key. Now it works fine, but it requires you to go get the API key, import it into OpenClaw. And if you don't have one, your agent just can't search the web. So whether you decide you want to use a Claude or a ChatGPT model, it's not going to find anything on the web unless you put the Brave Search API key in. Well, good news, there's an alternative, and not only is it better, it's free. Most people don't even know about it. It's the Gemini Search Grounding. If you've authenticated with Google's Gemini CLI, which is free, you can use Google's actual search infrastructure through Gemini API. Instead of getting a list of links, you get a synthesized answer with cited resources. It's like having a research assistant instead of a search engine. Now, there's a lot of confusion about the Gemini and Google API stuff. Now, there's been some stuff online saying that people are getting banned from their Google accounts because they're using Google. And I'm not here to advocate and say that this is within their terms of service. I'm simply saying that this is a feature available within OpenClaw that is part of the models you can choose from for Google OAuth. And you can utilize this specifically to do searches on your behalf. So you can use a totally different model. I can be using Opus 4.6, which is the newest, greatest one by Claude right now as my main model. And then when I just wanted to search the internet, it calls the Google Gemini API just for the search feature, pulls that information back in, and continues using Claude as the main model. It's tremendously powerful and much better than the Brave API. So here's how it works. It's an OpenClaw custom skill, a small script that your agent knows how to use when the agent needs to search the web. It runs a script which calls the Gemini API with the Google Search Grounding tool enabled. Gemini searches Google, reads the top results, returns a synthesized answer with the source URLs. The key difference from a normal search API is you don't get 10 blue links, you get an actual answer built from those results with citations, so you can go verify yourself if you want to. So it's different from Brave, which just gives you a bunch of website results. This one will take all those results, synthesize it, and give you the answer so that that model you're using can just take that answer and move forward. The key here is that Gemini does the heavy lifting here. If you use the Brave API, it's going to give you a bunch of information that then your model then, whether it be Claude, ChatGPT, whichever you choose, even if it's a local model, it's got to go through all that information and then synthesize the data for a result. So it could be using a lot of tokens, especially if you're paying the API fees that you're having to pay for specifically, whereas this, it's free. If you have a Google account, it's completely free. All right, so if you haven't already set up the Google OAuth, the easiest way to do it is just go through the onboarding process. It's just type in OpenClaw onboard and it'll walk you through the steps. And as part of the steps, you just need to choose the Google OAuth. And then once you authenticate through Google OAuth, then you're authenticated, and then we move on to the next steps, which is creating a skill. So there's a skill, and then there's a JavaScript that I will then either link or put into the description for you guys to look at. I'm not going to go through all of it right now, but basically you need to make sure the skill is in the right place, in the right directory, so that OpenClaw knows how to use that skill. You also need to have the JavaScript file in the right location so that the skill can call that JavaScript file and do the search on your behalf. The other piece of this is that in order for OpenClaw not to continue to try to search using the Brave API, because you can set all this stuff up, you can have a skill in place, and you can say, hey, can you find this and that for me on the internet? And it's going to default to try to use the Brave API. There is a specific configuration that you need to change within the OpenClaw.json file. I will also put those details in the description for you. You can take, or you can just copy and paste it, give it to OpenClaw, or give it whatever information, say we need to disable the Brave API option within OpenClaw JSON, and it should be able to go do that for you. So the index.js, which like I said, I'll put in the description or I'll link it. It's about 60 lines of code. It's pretty trim, and that's in place. Once the skill.md is in place, that's it. You don't even have to restart the gateway. It just works. So I'm going to do an example here. So I'm just going to say, I never use this web UI, but for the purposes of this demonstration, I'll go ahead and use it and say, please provide today's top AI news. So the one thing I will tell you about this is that, and those of you who have used the Google OAuth as your primary model for just regular use, is you can choose, Gemini. You can use Gemini 3 Flash. You can use, I think, 3 Pro or 3.1 Pro. But Gemini 3 Flash is not fast. So it's called Flash, and sometimes OpenClaw says, hey, use it because it's really fast. But for the purposes of this, and I'm not sure exactly if it's because it's using the Gemini CLI API URL, but it's not super quick. So that was all real time, and it gave all this information for today's news, March 4th. But it gives us synthesized information. So if you do ask, if you're using Opus, you ask it a question, it needs to search the internet, it'll distill this information down, provide it to your local model or Gemini or Opus or GPT or whatever you decide to use, Communicate 2.5, etc. And it'll work super efficiently, allow you to use whatever model you want, and it's free. So in my opinion, this is a no-brainer. I did use Brave for a little bit, didn't find that it was very helpful for me. If you have different thoughts about it, if you have a different way of searching that you think is working better, please comment in the video. I'd love to get new ideas. We're learning stuff every single day. There's new stuff going on. So, if this was helpful for you, please like, subscribe. We got more content coming out. Thanks.